Welcome, friends. We're delighted you could join us again this week.
This is the time when all the farmers markets have started once again. So if you aren't planting a garden or you need some fresh produce, there's a lot of them that have fresh produce because they have hothouses. And they are growing it already.
And they run out really quickly, at least at our farmers market.
Yes. And of course, it's not just for the fresh produce. It's for other things too. There's bakery goods.
Oh, yeah.
There's just all kinds of things. So it's always a very, very fun day.
It is fun to go to the farmer's market.
Yes, and with the end of the month coming, it's Arbor Day also.
Yeah, that Arbor Day is, I have fond memories of Arbor Day from living in Nebraska. Of course, it's a holiday that started in Nebraska City, Nebraska. And so growing up in Nebraska, we did Arbor Day kind of in a big way at schools always.
Schools usually had a field trip.
Yeah, and I think it's the last Friday in April is
I think so.
Arbor Day usually. It's a national holiday now.
I don't know how many people really celebrate it or whatever, but it's a great day to go out and plant a tree.
For sure.
The holiday started in 1872 by J. Sterling Morton. I like to read one little quote that I just think is wonderful, written by Warren Buffett, who is also a
Nebraskan.
A big person, yes, so to speak, a well-known person in Nebraska. And he says, someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago.
Wow, I like that.
Profound.
It is profound because it also speaks of doing things that you know are going to be good for the future, even though you may not have a chance to enjoy them, which I think is important.
Like 3 years ago, or I think it has been that we planted a white pine tree. I put it on the edge of my property, and white pine is one of those sacred trees. I've always wanted to have one in my yard, so to speak, or on my acreage, and so now I have one. It has grown and grown and grown. It is a fast grower. But white pine tea is wonderful for our bodies.
It is. It's a wonderful medicinal tree, too. Yeah.
And I also planted a bur oak tree, and I think I've shared it with you, all of you, about planting the bur oak tree because it has the biggest acorns there are.
Amazing acorns.
And it'll take 30 years, which I'll never see, to have it even produce the first acorn.
Wow.
But will feed the wildlife around, whether it's deer, raccoons, the squirrels. Absolutely. It'll feed all the wildlife because so much of our land is being just shorn clear off to make room for housing areas to come in. There will be nothing left for the animals to eat, I fear. So I planted that. So that was my contribution more or less to Arbor Day some time ago. And I go out and look at my little trees and talk to them, and they're doing great.
Yeah, it's wonderful to consider celebrating Arbor Day as a way to remind yourself to plant a tree each year and think about planting native trees also. You know, we love the oak trees. We live on an area where hardwoods are native here.
They are.
Just right on the edge of where hardwoods are native. And so think about planting a native tree. Look up what trees are native in your area, because when you plant a native tree, you are supporting your native ecosystem.
Habitat around it.
Exactly, because a lot of insects and a lot of our native insects rely on particular plants. And so when you plant a native tree, then you are supporting that in your area, which is important to do. Prioritize natives.
It certainly is. So as I come along the edge of the woods today, up to the shop, across Tamara's property, her meadow, and I come to the shop, I have the edge of my woods is right there. And I noticed so much garlic mustard. I don't think I've ever seen so much. It's blooming right now, so it's very, very noticeable.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It really is. We always enjoy seeing the native flowers, but unfortunately, garlic mustard isn't actually a native flower. It's actually an invasive that was brought here. It's native to both Europe and Asia, and actually in the UK, it's called Jack by the Hedge. And it's held in high regard for its nutrients, and it's eaten. And that's one of the reasons probably why it was brought here deliberately in the 1800s. It was introduced to Long Island, but it has spread now to pretty much every corner of the United States. It's very invasive. It doesn't really have any real predators outside of its native lands. You know, in its native lands, it'll stay contained because it has some native predators, but not here because it's not native. And so we do like to use it as a wild green to eat upon occasion. You can substitute it anywhere that you would use garlic. It is called garlic mustard because when you taste a leaf, It tastes just like garlic and mustard together, which is really pretty cool. You can use it in pesto to substitute for basil. And so like an early spring pesto where basil's not ready yet, you can use garlic mustard. It pairs well with eggs really well. You can use garlic mustard in an omelet with asparagus in the spring. It's delicious. Something important to know, though, is that it does contain a natural cyanide. A lot of plants will produce chemicals to try and get animals, including us, to not eat them. And cyanide is one of those, particularly in the Brassica family. And we're fortunate because, we evolved right along with these plants. And so our livers actually do a pretty good job of filtering those natural cyanides out. Cyanide's really actually very common in vegetables. As I said, many plants in the Brassica family, that includes cultivated mustards, broccoli, and cabbage. They all have cyanides. But in the case of garlic mustard, the young plants, which is what we're seeing now, have much higher amounts, which is why we want to eat them with some caution, consume in moderation. So a little bit of fresh is okay. And it's also good if you're going to eat more quantity of it to soak it. Cyanide is actually water soluble, so it can help to soak it and rinse it before you're eating it or cooking it. It loves growing in the shade, and you'll notice it under a lot of trees. Yeah. It's actually less bitter when it's collected in the shady areas, and it can grow up to 6 feet tall.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either because we've never seen it that tall in our area, but it can grow that tall. Maybe if it's in a really rich soil. Our soil is not very rich out here.
And I don't think I've seen it much more than 12 or 14 inches tall.
Right. Yeah, it's usually about knee-high for us. Unfortunately, when we see it under trees, we also kind of wince a little bit because we know that its roots actually produce chemicals that can kill the mycorrhizal fungi that our native plants and tree species partner with to draw nutrients from the soil. And so it can actually harm our native plant species and the trees that it grows under. And so it's kind of a love-hate relationship with garlic mustard, and it's important to be aware of these important issues when we're dealing with garlic mustard. It's really identifiable right now, and it's especially more identifiable when its seed pods come on, which are long and really kind of freaky looking, long, narrow pods that open straight down the middle to expose the seeds on both sides. And you can actually use the dried seeds in pickle brine or sprinkle them in breads, and they contain less cyanide than are in the leaves. So using them in those ways isn't going to be hurt anything at all. And some people love to eat the root. The tap root is actually known as wild horseradish because it tastes like horseradish. And you can collect it any time to eat the wild root. But in the interest of thinning out the population, try to pull in the early spring before the flower stalks form, or in late fall after the flower stalks die back, because that's when it's most susceptible to be pulled out and eradicated. We want to pull as many as we can because it's quite invasive. It really doesn't probably matter how many you pull, you're never going to get rid of it all. And it has a thick taproot. It also has many small rootlets, and the plant can grow back from any of those little rootlets. So it's quite an effort. We have to just keep pulling every year. And there we have so much on our land that it's something we'll probably never get rid of. And so we just enjoy eating it upon occasion in moderation. And we love teaching our students about these kind of plants too.
One of the things that we can make with it, though, using the leaves and the flowers, are for the vinegar, our herbal vinegars.
Yeah, we love making herbal vinegars with all kinds of wild, fresh spring greens.
Exactly. Or even things out of our herb garden.
You bet.
The vinegars are wonderful. One of the things we should watch for this year, and if you're canning or preserving things and making green tomato relish or bread and butter pickles and such, on the canning sites, the homesteading sites, they're talking about the vinegars as far as the acidity of them. And the manufacturers, for some unknown reason,
Profit,
yeah, probably, they are diluting them with water. And so the acidity is changing. Be sure to check the front of every jug that you buy when you're doing your canning of the pickles and such, because it should say 5% acidity. If it says 4%, you're not going to get a good product at all.
Yeah, we want to buy vinegar in glass bottles.
Yes, not plastic. And stay away from the white vinegar if you possibly can. Now, I know all of the old recipes that were handed down from my mom and my grandmother, they called for the white vinegar.
And we don't know the source that they used to make that white vinegar with.
No,
And
it's very harsh for our systems, I believe. And so I have switched from using the white vinegar over to the apple cider vinegar. And that I've not seen a change as far as taste very much at all. Not really perceptible. So try to change that. Or otherwise, I'll use white wine vinegar. Now, the wine vinegars will have an acidity of 5, 6, or 7%.
which is great.
And that is great.
When you're making vinegars with fresh plant material, you're adding water to your vinegar anyway. And so the more water content it has, the less likely it's going to be lasting very long before it molds. So yeah, we want a higher acidity, anywhere between 5 and 7%.
Yes,
is good.
Exactly. And so, and have your product, a safe product in the end.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about herbal vinegars a little bit more, especially as we go later in the summer, when we love to make our garlic chive vinegar, which is one of our favorite ones that we make a lot of and we sell here in the shop.
It's a very popular one.
It is.
Yes. Well, May Day is coming.
Yes. And right up.
The days are just ticking right on by. May Day is coming, and May is a beautiful month. We know that. And I always think of May 1st as being the day for May baskets. I'm old enough to remember them, that we made them in school.
Yeah.
And that was always a fun thing. I wish we could revive the holiday. It probably will never, ever happen. I suppose a lot of people don't even know what a May basket is.
It's so sad.
It is.
I can remember knocking on you. I mean, you probably had us do the May baskets, because I remember knocking on neighbors' doors and hiding and leaving the May baskets on their doorknob.
It was important to do. We thought it was just kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And it kind of honors the day of May Day.
It does, which is important. It's the cross quarter day between solstice and spring equinox. Yes. So it's acknowledging the passage of time. And of course, it was a very important holiday in Europe known as Beltane, which means, I think, Day of Fire. And because they would build a big bonfire and celebrate well into the evening. And they'd have the maypole. I don't know if any of you have ever danced around the maypole, but there was in North Lawrence, they had a community that often would do that and I attended a couple times. That was a really fun celebration to participate in a very old holiday where you dance around the maypole and celebrate fertility in spring and the growth of the crops and all of those good things. The hope of the season.
Yes, and if you don't have a celebration to attend, do your own little celebration at home. I think it's really important to honor all of these passages of time. So make a May basket. Make it for yourself, if nothing else.
I love that. Better yet, for a friend.
Yes, better yet. Speaking of baskets, we have a couple of classes coming up. We have guest instructors coming in, and so we are going to be offering a couple of classes. And we are excited. This is called the Market Basket. It's a sweet little basket to carry, perfect for holding your goodies in it when you go to market or to a friend's house.
Your herbs.
Or to a friend's house, because a lot of our friends, we always bring our things back and forth, kind of like show and tell.
Right.
And it's just a fun thing to do. This is an absolutely perfect size. The information will be on our website, so check it out within a week. I think by May 1st.
We'll open enrollment to the public on May 1st.
And this is called the Market Basket. By learning the basics of the Market Basket, we're going to do 3 more baskets after this in different periods of time. And so, but you have to have the beginner basket to learn the basics of it.
That's good.
And then because our other classes were so popular, we've had lots of requests for it. We also have the little pine needle basket. And we'll start by making this basket, because by making this basket, you learn again the basics. And once you learn the basics, you can branch out and do other things. This is a small little pine needle basket. The inside is a slice of black walnut, and that is what we start with. So the whole basket is really a gift from nature. It's all freebies that nature has left for us.
Beautiful.
And so this will also be offered. This class will not happen until August, but it's important to sign up now, because as soon as the class is full, we can see about getting another class lined up too.
And this is one that Mom made the last time we had that class here before COVID.
And I've made lots of pine needle baskets since.
Yes, you have. They're beautiful too.
I have enjoyed them a whole lot. I've been working with a 52-week challenge, as you mostly know. And for some of you, it may interest you a bit to know what I've been working on again this week. I won't share every week what we're doing, because I don't always get the project to this point to even show it, because my weeks are busy. The days are busy too.
I love seeing what you're working on.
Well, this is on planet Earth again, because this is Earth Day or Earth Week,
yeah,
as every day should be.
Every day should be Earth Day, and April is the official Earth Day.
Yes, it is. Our planet is 30% land and 70% water.
Mm.
Have we ever really thought about that a whole lot? I haven't. It's just there.
Right, because we live on land, that's how we think of the Earth, right?
Absolutely. And if you would go into space, you would see that our planet, called home, is just a little dot of blue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost impossible to understand, to fathom. For me, it is anyway. But it made a big impression, I think, on me when our guide gave a lot of scientific facts, and I love those facts because it gave me something to ponder for the next couple of days when I was deciding how I was going to make this little page that'll go into my cloth book, my book of pages, 52 pages. So this is what I came up with so far, and I am not done. I use a foundation cloth in the back, and these are stitched to it. So the top part are pieces of the earth, and I use the earth colors, the colors of the earth. Each little seam or overlay, I have used a feather stitch, and it's coming down. It almost looks like trees, my woods. I love the feather stitch. It's probably my favorite stitch of all in embroidery. Well, the next are the blues, and that represents all the 70% of water that's on our planet. I had no blues when I looked originally into my pieces, and I don't have a lot of scraps since I'm not a big sewer. So I mentioned to my friend Cheryl that I just don't have much in the way of blues. I'm going to go out and search for some blues. And lo and behold, a couple days later, here in the mail come a little package with blues in it. And I thank her for sharing those with me. I made them on an angle to represent movement of waves in an ocean. This becomes the shoreline, so it got lighter towards the top. And I happened to find some fleece that's curly off of the sheep. It's wonderful. I pulled one apart because I wanted foam to go at the top,
like the waves.
The wave is hitting the beach. It's breaking on the beach. That is really not called foam. The word for it is spume.
Oh.
S-P-U-M-E. And of course, spume will have a lot of what they call flotsam with it.
Sure.
And that will have some seaweed in it and some little shells and so on. Well, Cheryl happened to also give us all, if any of us wanted, quite some time ago, little bitty little seashells.
Oh.
And they have a little hole drilled through them. They're no bigger than probably a quarter of an inch.
Oh, my goodness.
They are the sweetest little things. I thought, well, I don't know what I'll ever do with them, but they are just the cutest of bugs here. So I have a few of those, and guess where they're going? Right into that. So I will stitch this all now with the running stitch. It'll be done in different blues of the embroider floss. I use 2 strands, and that will help hold these down. But I want to also go with the shape of my fabric to give it some movement so it will look like water.
Oh, very neat.
And at the bottom, I found this yarn that I had, all different colors, but notice there's blue in it. So I'm going to just cut out a couple pieces, probably 3 pieces of the blues, and it'll go at the bottom here to give it a little more
action. That's
a
very
little depth
cool.
and such. So this will be finished, and it'll go into my book, and hopefully this weekend I'll have it finished so I can be ready for Monday morning. That's when it shows again. And one of the other gals, Annette, she says, I have the fever. And she says, I can't wait till Monday mornings. And so that's kind of the way we are. This is a project that has really inspired quite a few people. And actually half of our sewing circle. When our sewing circle met this last week, it was interesting to see how many were working with it.
That's wonderful.
It's good to be inspired. It's good to do things with friends. It's good to stretch ourselves because each one of ours is completely different from another's. It is our interpretation of it, and it is so interesting to see how others interpret.
Oh, how marvelous. I just love the whole concept. Is just wonderful.
It is. And this is a Carl Sagan quote. Preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. And of course, we who remember who Carl Sagan was, yeah,
wise man.
Quite a wise man. I'm going to close with, this is out of the May chapter because we're going into May. Where flowers bloom, so does hope. And in this crazy world, we need hope.
We do, and this is the season of hope.
It is the season of flowers.
It is.
And so that was by Eleanor Roosevelt. So with that, we will wish you a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.
Good earth blessings to you.